This is Lenovo's first 14-inch Legion gaming laptop. It's the Legion Slim 5, but unlike the biggest 16-inch model I reviewed a few weeks ago, this new 14-inch model has an OLED screen and actually deserves the Slim name. Not only is this new 14-inch model much more portable and lightweight, but it can still match the performance of the biggest 16-inch model. The Slim 5 has Lenovo's storm grey finish with a metal aluminum anodized lid and bottom panel, but the interior feels like plastic. Build quality is good, similar to the higher tier Slim 7. There's not much keyboard or lid flex, it just feels nice and sturdy. Ours did have some wobble on a flat surface, but I'm certain this is due to it being one of the first units. There's absolutely no way that's normal. But regardless, I'm pointing it out in case it's a widespread issue. The front of the lid sticks out and makes one finger opening very easy. The screen goes all the way back and the hinge feels super smooth and sturdy, even when ripping it open fast. The laptop alone weighs 3.2 pounds or 1.7 kilos, increasing to 5.1 pounds or 2.3 kilos with the 170 watt charger included. Just a little heavier compared to the G14 and Stealth 14, but lighter than Razer's Blade 14. It's a little bigger in all dimensions compared to those three laptops, but honestly, I can't say I noticed. It still felt super portable. Maybe I'm just used to Legions being thicker 15-inch plus machines. It's interesting that the 14-inch Slim 5 comes with this smaller 170 watt charger, while the 16-inch model I bought has a larger and heavier 230 watt charger. Yet both laptops have the same CPU and GPU. My Slim 5 has AMD's Ryzen 7 7840HS processor, Nvidia RTX 4060 graphics, 32 gigs of RAM, and a 14.5-inch 120Hz OLED screen. But you can spec it higher or lower for more or less money with the link below. The keyboard has a single zone of white backlighting. Key light can shine below the screen and look a little distracting depending on the angle of the screen. All keys and secondary functions light up, and there are 2 levels of brightness available with the spacebar shortcut. There's no RGB here, and Lenovo says the keyboard is a complete redesign to fit the smaller form factor. They fooled us though, because the keyboard looks and feels the same as any other Legion laptop, but that's probably what they were going for. Anyway, for me, that means it's nice to type on with a subtle clicky feel. The glass touchpad feels smooth, is a nice size, and works well. There's a fingerprint scanner in the power button, which I found to work fast and accurately. As for ports, the left side has 2 USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C ports, while the right has an SD card slot, camera disconnect switch, and 3.5mm audio combo jack. The rest is on the back. From left to right, there's HDMI 2.1, 2 USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-A ports, and the power input on the right. There are rear port icons which help you plug cables in without turning the laptop around, but they don't light up like the higher tier Slim 7. It would have been nice to have a USB Type-A port on one of the sides, but they're only on the back. But at least all USB ports are Gen 2, so faster 10 gigabit. The Type-C port closest to the back can be used to charge the laptop with up to 140 watts. Unfortunately, I don't have Lenovo's special 140 watt charger, and that doesn't use the PD 3.1 standard. My 140 watt Ugreen charger was only providing about 80 watts from its 140 watt port. Both Type-C ports have DisplayPort 1.4 support, so you can connect screens. The one closer to the back, so the same one that you can use to charge the laptop, connects directly to the Nvidia graphics, whether Optimus is on or off, while the front Type-C port always connects directly to the Radeon integrated graphics. HDMI always connected directly to the Nvidia graphics, and we confirmed it could run our LG B9 TV at 4K 120Hz 10-bit with G-Sync. Getting inside requires removing 10 Phillips head screws. The 4 down the front are shorter than the rest, so keep track of them. It was easy to pry open compared to older Legion laptops, but I couldn't have done it without these tools. I'll leave a link to them below. Inside, we've got the battery down the front, 2 PCIe Gen 4 M.2 SSD slots just above it, with the Wi-Fi on the left. Unfortunately, memory is soldered and cannot be upgraded, so keep that in mind when you're picking either 16 or 32 gigs when ordering. The Wi-Fi speed was quite good, similar to ASUS's Zephyrus G14 with the same MediaTek Wi-Fi card just above it, yet ahead of the larger 16-inch Slim 5, which also uses the same Wi-Fi card. The speeds from the installed 1TB PCIe Gen 4 SSD were excellent, but the SSD you get inside may vary by region. The SD card slot wasn't too bad, but my V90 card can exceed 200 megabytes a second, so there is better out there. The card does not click in and sticks out, so be careful not to bump it. I confirmed that the spare M.2 slot could fit a 4TB drive with chips on both sides, but unfortunately it doesn't fit in the primary slot due to a cable underneath. Well, it kind of does if you're willing to bend it into place, but that's not recommended. Soldered RAM and one M.2 slot not fitting a double-sided drive hurts the upgradability score. It wouldn't have been too bad compared to 14-inch gaming laptops in 2022, but other brands have stepped up this year with upgradable RAM becoming more common. Of course, the larger 16-inch version has more space, which means more upgrade options. The speakers are found towards the front on the left and right sides. They sound decent for the size, a little clearer compared to the biggest 16-inch model. There's a little bass, and they're still fairly clear at higher volume. The latency mon results were bad, which has been the case with most laptops this year. The 14-inch Slim 5 is powered by a 4-cell 73.6 watt-hour battery. You can enable adaptive refresh rate in Vantage to help save battery. This will automatically lower the screen's refresh rate to 60 Hz when you unplug the charger, which is why it flashes black, and it goes back up to 120 Hz when you plug back in. You can also enable conservation mode in Vantage. This limits the maximum charge level between 75 and 80%, which helps with battery longevity. You can't use it at the same time as rapid charge, and you've also got the option to charge the battery slower overnight, again to help longevity. It lasted for 8 hours and 46 minutes in my usual YouTube video playback test. A great result, and 8% longer compared to the larger 16-inch model, which has a larger battery. I was expecting a worse result going in due to the OLED screen, but that wasn't the case. Razer's more expensive Blade 14 was able to get an extra half an hour, while ASUS's G14 wasn't far behind, while the Intel-based Stealth 14 was lower. Let's check out thermals next. It's got two fans with a heat pipe shared between the CPU and GPU. There are air intake vents directly above the fans, and vents at the back above the keyboard. Air gets exhausted out towards the back on the left and right sides, and out from the left and right corners on the back. The Vantage software lets us change between different performance modes, which from lowest to highest are Quiet, Balance, Performance, and Custom. Balance mode has an optional AI setting, which is meant to provide an optimal experience in supported games. Think best performance without the fans going too loud. Custom mode gives you some control over fan speed, or you can just set the fans to max, as well as some control over CPU and GPU thermal and power limits for finer tuning. Whenever we've tested custom mode, all these sliders have been set to maximum for best performance. We've also got the option of enabling a GPU overclock through Vantage too. It works in all modes except quiet mode, as long as the charger is connected. You can customize it through here, but we've left it default anytime it was tested. As I figure it's a simple one-click option for a performance boost, all our testing has been done with it on. You can also press the function and Q shortcut to change between all performance modes except custom. The color of the power button changes so you can easily tell which is currently in use. As noted here, performance and custom modes cannot be used when running on battery power. The internal temperatures were fine at idle. The rest of the results are from combined CPU and GPU stress tests, which aim to represent a worst-case full-load scenario. Temperatures get higher as we move into higher modes. There wasn't a difference between running with the lid closed or open, so no problems with docking the laptop. The cooling pad I test with, linked below the video, was able to lower GPU temps by 6 degrees. The highest custom mode was the warmest, but it also offers the best clock speeds too. All 8 cores were averaging 400 MHz higher with with custom mode, as we had all power and thermal limits set to maximum. This allows the CPU to run up to 47 watts, a fair bit higher compared to the 28 watt limit seen in performance mode. But there's clearly diminishing returns given this is only a 400 MHz difference. The Nvidia control panel says that the RTX 4060 can run up to 105 watts with dynamic boost, which isn't too far off the maximum we saw in this test. The 4060 can't really run beyond 100 watts in most games anyway due to Nvidia's voltage limit, so this is essentially a full-powered 4060 in many workloads. The difference between custom and performance modes wasn't really that different with an actual game running. We chose to do our upcoming game testing in performance mode due to this, but it's possible that CPU-heavier games at lower resolutions will see better results with custom mode. And as usual, it doesn't look like the AI option in balanced mode is helping out here. The CPU power level can run higher when the GPU isn't active, like in Cinebench, where around 84 watts was possible with the 7840HS in custom mode. The larger 16-inch Slim 5 was barely 4% better in multi-core, basically the same, and probably only slightly ahead due to more room for cooling capacity. Other 14-inch gaming laptops like Razer's Blade 14 and Asus's Zephyrus G14 were a little ahead with their higher tier Ryzen 9 processors, but not by much. Performance is still quite good even after unplugging the charger and instead running purely off of battery power. AMD Ryzen-based laptops often do quite well in this test compared to Intel, presumably as they're more power efficient. The Legion Slim 5 was now one of the better results, but again, the 14-inch model is basically identical to the larger 16-inch version. Most laptops I test are in the low 30 degrees Celsius range on the keyboard at idle, and the Slim 5 was right in line with this and cool. It gets warmer with the stress test running, but the middle wasn't hot, just a little warm to the touch. The higher balanced mode was quite similar, just a bit warm, no problems at all. It gets a little warmer in the higher performance mode, but the wrist rest and WASD area still felt fine. And ultimately, the middle wasn't hot, just a bit warmer. The highest custom mode was a bit cooler, despite performing better in this workload. But the fans are way louder now. Let's have a listen. I couldn't hear the fans when it was idle in quiet mode. It gets louder in the higher modes, as expected. And unfortunately, the lower temps from the cooling pad weren't able to make the fans run lower. It's extremely loud in custom mode with the fans maxed out, but you definitely don't have to set the fans to full speed. We just tested custom maxed out to see what it could do. This is Lenovo's first Legion gaming laptop with an OLED screen that I'm aware of. Honestly, it looks great, but as usual, I'm not personally a fan of the glossy finish as it shows distracting reflections easier. The colors and contrast are basically perfect, as you'd expect from an OLED panel. Perfect for gamers and content creators. It's advertised at 400 nits, but ours maxed out a little under this due to the panel lottery, though it still felt bright enough. The Vantage software has some dimming options to help reduce burn-in, but none were enabled by default. Backlight bleed doesn't exist with OLED, as the individual pixels turn off for black. In this photo, the screen is black with the mouse cursor in the middle. Screen response time is another area where OLED is vastly superior to other panel technologies. Average grey-to-grey response time is under a millisecond, which is super fast compared to all other laptops tested, at least the ones that aren't also OLED. The total system latency is the amount of time between a mouse click and when a gunshot fire appears on the screen in CSGO. The super fast screen alone wasn't enough to give the Slim 5 a great result. It's still decent, but other laptops with faster hardware do better. The Slim 5 has a muck switch. You can set the GPU working mode in Vantage to DGPU mode, but you have to reboot to make the change. Unfortunately, there is no G-Sync with Optimus off. I'm not sure if it has advanced Optimus. It says it does on the specs, so it probably does. But ours does not have it. But that might just be because it's one of the earlier units. I've been trying to confirm with Lenovo, but haven't been able to get an answer just yet. So if I do hear back, I'll leave an update in the pinned comment below. There's a 1080p camera above the screen, but it does not have IR for Windows Hello Face Unlock. You can disable the camera with the switch on the right. Here's how the camera and microphones look and sound, and this is what it sounds like while typing on the keyboard. Now let's find out how well the 14-inch Slim 5 performs in games. We've tested it with these settings for best results. Cyberpunk 2077 was tested the same on all laptops, and the 14-inch Slim 5 is shown by the red highlight. It's very close to most of the other RTX 4060 gaming laptops tested so far, and basically identical to the largest 16-inch model. MSI's Stealth 14, another 14-inch laptop but with higher tier RTX 4070, is basically the same too, while Asus's 14-inch G14 wasn't doing as well as the Slim. The gap between the G14 is smaller at the higher 1440p resolution, and the larger 16-inch model with same specs is still performing the same. The 4070 in MSI's Stealth 14 can stretch its legs more at this higher resolution, so it's further ahead now compared to 1080p. Red Dead Redemption 2 was tested with the game's benchmark, and again the 14-inch version is matching the largest 16-inch model, though both are 8% ahead of Lenovo's lower tier Lock series. The 14-inch laptops with RTX 4070s were ahead in this game, even at 1080p, and also at the higher 1440p resolution. Again, the 14-inch Slim 5 is still matching the biggest 16-inch model, so just goes to show you can basically get full performance from the RTX 4060 in a smaller laptop. Nvidia's voltage limit means that there's not much to gain from more cooling and power delivery. The 14-inch Slim 5 was the lowest RTX 4060 result in Control at 1080p, and finally, the larger 16-inch model was a bit better, but we're only talking about a 5 FPS gap. Still though, it's matching Asus's Zephyrus G14, which I think is one of the better 14-inch laptops currently available. The gap between the 16-inch model gets smaller at the higher 1440p resolution, and the 14-inch Slim 5 is still matching the Zephyrus G14 despite having a higher tier processor. Granted, CPUs matter less at higher resolutions. Here are the 3D Mark results for those that find them useful. Now for some content creator tests. The 8-core Zen 4 processor and RTX 4060 graphics were definitely enough for content creation work, even 4K editing. And although the OLED screen is the icing on the cake, I'd probably want to connect a larger monitor if I was going to edit for hours. Lenovo's BIOS gives you more customization compared to Asus, Gigabyte, or Razer laptops, but there's nowhere near as much tuning potential compared to what MSI offers in their advanced BIOS. Linux support was tested with an Ubuntu 23.04 Live CD. By default, the keyboard, touchpad, camera, Wi-Fi, and speakers all worked. Keyboard shortcuts to adjust volume, screen brightness, keyboard lighting, and performance mode all worked too. An excellent result. Pricing and availability will change over time, so check the link below for updates and current sales. And if the Slim 5 does have a good sale, we'll be sure to add it to our gaminglaptop.deals website. We update that every day to include all of the latest sales, so make sure you check it out regularly to save money on your next gaming laptop. Lenovo's press release notes that the 14-inch Slim 5 will be available this month, and that it starts from $1,440 for the RTX 4050 configuration. Apart from that, I can't really get better US pricing details right now, as it just isn't for sale yet. So again, unfortunately, you'll have to refer to the link below. Here in Australia, the RTX 4060 goes for 2,950 Australian dollars. So without our taxes and converted, that's about $1,700. So as usual with 14-inch gaming laptops, you're paying a premium to get good specs in a smaller form factor. That said, apparently students can pick it up for 1,853 Australian dollars, which without our taxes and converted is under $1,100. Not too bad. The thing that impressed me the most was that the performance from this smaller 14-inch laptop basically matches the largest 16-inch model. Whether we're talking about CPU performance in Cinebench, with or without the charger connected, or even gaming, performance was extremely close. So just goes to show that in some cases, you're not getting much of a benefit from getting a bigger laptop. Unless, of course, you want things like a bigger screen, space for a touchpad, and upgradable memory. In those cases, the extra space definitely comes in handy. Soldered memory is a negative for this 14-inch model, but on the plus side, it has room for 2 M.2 storage slots. And that's something Asus's Zephyrus G14, Razer's Blade 14, and MSI's Stealth 14 do not offer. But those all have upgradable memory, so that's the trade-off. And out of all those 14-inch laptops, personally, I think I'd prefer the Legion, because it just looks so clean and doesn't scream gaming laptop. But of course, that's definitely personal preference. I'm also a huge fan of the OLED screen. I don't like the glossy reflective finish, but I think I'd be able to live with it, because otherwise OLED has excellent colors, perfect contrast, super fast response time, and in this case, it gets bright enough. I don't know, overall this laptop just feels really nice to use. And I wish there was proper US pricing available so I could try and compare it better to those other 14-inch laptops. If I was really after a 14-inch laptop and I didn't want the Legion, the Zephyrus G14 would be my next choice. And you can find out all about it in this one next. The G14 is definitely better in many regards, but nothing in life is perfect. The Legion beats it in other ways too. So I'll see you over in that one next.